Lobster fishing is one of the oldest and most iconic forms of fishing, especially in coastal communities where the crustaceans are found in abundance. Lobsters have been an important part of the human diet and economy for centuries, with their high market value making them a lucrative target for commercial fishermen. While lobsters can be caught using a variety of methods, trapping is the most common and environmentally sustainable technique. This method has evolved over time, balancing efficiency with conservation efforts to ensure that lobster populations remain healthy for future generations. This essay delves into the complexities of lobster fishing, exploring its history, techniques, environmental impacts, and economic significance. Lobster fishing has a long history, especially in areas such as the northeastern United States and Atlantic Canada, where the lobster industry has been a cornerstone of coastal economies for centuries. Native Americans were the first to catch lobsters, using primitive methods such as spearing or by hand in shallow waters. These early fishermen recognized the abundance of lobsters along the coast and incorporated them into their diet and culture. With the arrival of European settlers in North America, lobster fishing became more systematic. By the 1700s, lobsters were so abundant that they were considered a common food, often served to prisoners, captive servants, and the poor. However, as demand for lobsters increased, especially in the 19th century when lobsters became a delicacy among the wealthy, the industry began to grow. Fishermen began using wooden traps to catch lobsters more efficiently, and by the late 1800s, lobster fishing had become a commercial industry. Lobster traps, also known as pots, are the primary tool used in modern lobster fishing. These traps are designed to catch live lobsters, allowing fishermen to selectively harvest and release small or egg-bearing females, a practice that helps maintain lobster populations. Traditional lobster traps were made of wood, but modern traps are often made of coated wire mesh, which is more durable and resistant to harsh marine environments. A standard lobster trap consists of several main components. The trap frame is usually rectangular and made of metal or wood. This frame provides structural support and determines the overall shape of the trap. This is the opening through which the lobster enters the trap. The funnel is designed to be wide enough for the lobster to enter but narrow enough that it cannot easily escape. The galley is the bait compartment. It is located just inside the entrance, luring the lobster into the trap. The living room is the part of the trap where the lobster is eventually caught. After entering the galley and biting the bait, the lobster moves deeper into the trap and becomes trapped in the living room. These are small openings in the trap that allow the younger lobsters to escape. This feature is important for the conservation of lobster populations by ensuring that young lobsters are not caught prematurely. Each trap is attached to a buoy via a line, allowing fishermen to locate and retrieve their traps from the ocean. The success of a lobster trap depends largely on the bait used. Fishermen often use fish such as herring, mackerel or menhaden as bait, as these oily fish have a strong odor that attracts lobsters. Bait is placed in the galley part of the trap, where the scent of the bait can diffuse into the water, attracting lobsters from the surrounding area. Some fishermen also use bait bags or boxes to protect the bait from being eaten too quickly by other marine life. Lobster trapping involves placing them on the ocean floor in areas where lobsters are known to be abundant. Fishermen often deploy traps in chains or trawls, which consist of multiple traps connected by a single rope. The traps are spaced apart to cover a larger area, increasing the chance of a successful catch. The depth of the trap can vary depending on the season, water temperature, and lobster behavior. In colder months, lobsters tend to move to deeper water, so traps are placed at greater depths. Conversely, in warmer months, lobsters move closer to shore, allowing traps to be placed in shallower water. Trap retrieval or towing is done using a winch or tractor mounted on a fishing boat. The buoy line is hooked and pulled onto the boat, bringing the trap to the surface. The fishermen then empty the trap, sorting the lobsters by size and releasing any smaller or egg-bearing females back into the water. While lobster trapping is considered one of the more sustainable fishing methods, it is not without its environmental impacts. The sustainability of the practice depends on responsible management and adherence to regulations designed to protect lobster populations and the broader marine ecosystem. Bycatch and habitat impact. One of the main concerns with lobster trapping is bycatch, which is the unintended capture of non-target species. King crab fishing has a long history, originating from coastal communities in the Arctic, where indigenous people knew how to exploit marine resources for a living. However, king crab fishing with traps as it is today only really developed from the mid-20th century, when fishing technology advanced and the demand for seafood consumption in developed countries increased. Before becoming a large industry, king crab fishing was mainly a family or small community activity, serving the needs of self-sufficiency or internal exchange. Coastal people in Alaska, Kamchatka, Russia, and some other areas knew how to use hand traps made of wood or animal bones to catch crabs. This method, although primitive, was effective in maintaining stable king crab resources. In the 1950s, along with the development of the seafood industry, especially in the United States, king crab began to be exploited on a large scale. The advent of seafood preservation technologies such as quick freezing and air freight opened up international markets for king crab, particularly in Japan and Europe. This made king crab fishing more attractive and profitable than ever. In the following decades, the king crab fishery saw an explosion in the number of boats and fishermen. Modern fishing vessels, equipped with GPS and sonar to search the seabed for crabs, along with giant steel traps, made fishing easier and more efficient. However, this increase also led to overfishing, which threatened wild king crab populations. By the late 1980s, many king crab fishing areas, particularly in the Bering Sea, began to show signs of depletion. Crab production plummeted, leading to a crisis in the industry and the loss of thousands of jobs. Governments of the countries involved have been forced to intervene by enacting stricter regulations on season. Quotas and fishing methods to protect the king crab population. Efforts to manage marine resources have helped the king crab population gradually recover. Today, the king crab fishery is closely managed with strict regulations on seasons, crab size and the number of traps allowed to be used. Marine conservation organizations also play an important role in monitoring and protecting marine ecosystems, ensuring that the industry can develop sustainably in the future. In addition, modern technology also makes king crab fishing safer. Modern vessels are equipped with satellite positioning systems, radar and advanced rescue equipment, helping fishermen minimize risks when operating. In harsh weather conditions. King crab fishing is not only a profession but also an indispensable part of the cultural life of coastal communities. King crab fishermen often live in groups, on boats that are fully equipped but still retain the characteristics of marine life. The life of a king crab fisherman is a series of continuous challenges. Each trip lasts for weeks, even months, requiring patience, perseverance and a high team spirit. Fishermen often start work at dawn and only finish when it gets dark. Their job is not only to pull nets and collect traps, but also to face risks such as bad weather, big waves and even the risk of encountering While lobster traps are designed to minimize bycatch, other marine life such as crabs, fish, and even small mammals such as seals can sometimes become trapped. To address this, regulations often require the use of escape holes, which allow smaller, non-target species to escape the trap. Another environmental concern is the impact of the traps on the ocean floor. Lobster traps are often placed on rocky or sandy substrates, where they can cause some disruption to benthic habitats. However, compared to other fishing methods such as trawling, which involve dragging large nets across the seafloor, the impact of lobster traps is relatively small. Furthermore, the use of biodegradable materials in traps, such as wooden frames or cotton rope, helps minimize long-term damage to the environment if traps are lost or abandoned. Ghost fishing is the phenomenon of lost or abandoned fishing gear, including lobster traps, continuing to catch and kill marine life. When traps are lost due to storms, shipping, or other factors, they can remain on the ocean floor, trapping and killing lobsters and other species for years. To mitigate this problem, regulations often require traps to be equipped with biodegradable panels or escape mechanisms that allow trapped animals to escape if the trap is lost. Effective management of lobster populations is essential to ensuring the sustainability of fisheries. This includes setting quotas, size limits, and seasonal restrictions to prevent overfishing and allow lobster populations to regenerate. In many areas, there are also specific regulations designed to protect breeding females, such as bans on catching spawning lobsters and a requirement to V-mark the tails of spawning females before releasing them. This marking acts as a visible mark that protects the lobsters from future fishing, even if they no longer have eggs. Lobster fishing is not only a cultural tradition, it is also an important economic activity for many coastal communities. The high market value of lobsters, especially in markets such as the United States, Europe, and Asia, makes lobster fishing a lucrative industry. This section will explore the economic aspects of lobster fishing, including the livelihoods it supports, the supply chain, and the challenges the industry faces. For many coastal communities, particularly in areas such as New England and Atlantic Canada, lobster fishing is a way of life. The industry provides employment not only for fishermen, but also for those involved in related industries, such as trap making, bait supply, boat building, and seafood processing. In some areas, entire towns are economically dependent on the lobster industry, with generations of families passing down their fishing knowledge and traditions. The seasonal nature of lobster fishing means that fishermen must maximize their catch during the fishing season to support themselves throughout the year. This work often requires long hours at sea, inclement weather, and the risks inherent in the fishing industry. Despite these challenges, many fishermen remain committed to their work, motivated by a strong connection to the ocean and a sense of pride in their role as stewards of the marine environment. Once harvested, lobsters enter a complex supply chain that involves multiple stages before reaching consumers. Once caught, lobsters are typically stored in live tanks on fishing boats or in onshore facilities. They are then graded by size and quality, with premium lobsters commanding the highest prices. Live lobsters are often sold directly to wholesalers or processors, who may export them to international markets or sell them to restaurants. And retailers. Some lobsters are also processed into products such as lobster meat, tails, or canned lobsters, which can be sold in markets where live lobster distribution is less feasible. Global demand for lobster has driven significant growth in the industry, with exports to countries such as China and the European Union playing a major role in the industry's economic success. However, growth icebergs. One of the notable stories is that of Jonathan Hillstrom, a famous fisherman on the reality TV show, Deadliest Catch. He shared about the times he had to face fierce storms, when the ship was destroyed by big waves and crab traps weighing hundreds of kilograms could fall to the deck at any time, threatening the lives of the entire crew. These experiences not only show the dangers of the profession but also reflect the fisherman's spirit of never giving up. King crab fishing is also associated with many customs and beliefs typical of coastal